I still remember the day like it happened yesterday. I was sitting at my desk, staring at a half-finished report, wondering what I was even doing with my life. I had taken the job at Hudson and Company 3 years earlier, right after college, thinking it was just a stepping stone. But somehow, that temporary plan had turned into 3 years of staying late, typing endless numbers into spreadsheets and watching coworkers come and go. At 27, I felt stuck. My friends were moving forward, starting families, traveling, or working in exciting roles they loved. And me? I was living paycheck to paycheck, constantly questioning if I had wasted my degree and my time. That's when something unexpected happened. Meeting Mr. Reynolds. My boss, Daniel Reynolds, wasn't the type of man who wasted words. He had built his way up from an intern in the same company, and everyone admired him for his discipline, honesty, and calm leadership. He was in his early 50s, sharp-eyed but always approachable. Most people were intimidated by him, but I noticed he had a knack for paying attention to people, even in the smallest ways. One afternoon, he called me into his office. My stomach flipped. I thought I was in trouble. "Emily," he said, motioning for me to sit down. "I've been looking over your work these past few months. You're consistent, hardworking, but I get the sense you're not happy." His words caught me completely off guard. I stammered out something about being fine, but he shook his head gently. "I know that look," he said. "I had it once myself. The feeling that you're working hard, but not building a future you actually want." I felt my eyes sting with tears. How could he see right through me? The advice that changed everything. Instead of lecturing me about performance, Mr. Reynolds leaned forward and said something that stuck in my mind forever. "You're young, Emily. Don't just think about where you are, think about where you want to go. A job should be more than a paycheck. It should teach you something, build you into the person you want to become. If this role isn't doing that, it's time to make a change. The worst thing you can do is stay somewhere that slowly drains your passion." His words hit me like lightning. No one had ever said it to me so directly before. I left his office that day with my heart racing. On the subway home, I thought about what I really wanted. I had always dreamed of working in nonprofit communications, telling stories that mattered, stories that inspired people. But I had pushed that dream aside because it didn't seem practical. That night, I pulled out my old notebooks, the ones where I used to write campaign ideas and outreach plans. Something inside me sparked again. The risk I took. Over the next few weeks, I started applying to roles outside my comfort zone. I didn't tell anyone at first. I was terrified of failure. But Mr. Reynolds noticed. One day, as he passed my desk, he paused. "So," he said with a knowing smile, "have you thought more about the future?" I nodded nervously. "I've been applying to a few places." "That's good," he replied. "Don't be afraid to bet on yourself." Those words became my mantra. Finally, after dozens of applications and several interviews, I got an offer at a nonprofit organization dedicated to education initiatives. The salary was lower than what I was making at Hudson and Company, but my heart told me it was the right move. The goodbye I didn't expect. When I went to resign, I was trembling. But Mr. Reynolds surprised me again. He didn't look disappointed. He looked proud. "I knew you'd find your path," he said warmly. "Remember, Emily, success isn't about climbing the tallest ladder. It's about finding the ladder that matters to you." I will never forget that moment. On my last day, he handed me a small leather notebook. Inside the front cover, he had written, "For the stories you'll tell and the people you'll inspire, don't stop moving forward." A new beginning. Working at the nonprofit was nothing like my old job. It was messy, challenging, sometimes exhausting, but it was meaningful. I traveled to schools, interviewed teachers, and helped launch campaigns that raised awareness and funding for underprivileged children. Every time I faced doubt, I opened that notebook and reread Mr. Reynolds' words. His advice became a compass in moments when I felt lost. 2 years later, I was promoted to communications director. Standing at the podium at our annual fundraiser, looking out at hundreds of people who had come to support our mission, I felt tears in my eyes. I thought of my old desk, my old spreadsheets, and the conversation that had started it all. Full circle. Last year, I wrote Mr. Reynolds a letter. I told him how much his advice had changed my life, how I was finally living with purpose. He wrote back, saying he wasn't surprised. You just needed someone to remind you of what you already knew, he wrote. And he was right. Sometimes, all it takes is one conversation, one piece of advice, to change everything. Reflection. Now, whenever I mentor younger colleagues or interns at my nonprofit, I hear myself repeating his words. Don't just think about where you are, think about where you want to go. Because life is too short to spend it in the wrong place. And I'll always be grateful to the boss who saw more in me than I saw in myself.